All right, Lance Lynn has been traded. As Draft Neck Mark would say, the stove is heating up. Decided to bring out the pillbox 5950 for this video. But Lance Lynn has been traded to the White Sox. And what the Rangers got back is Dane Dunning, a fifth-ranked prospect on the White Sox organization, and Avery Weems, the White Sox first-round pick from 2019. Now, I'm sure many Rangers fans will think, oh man, another move the Rangers made, trading away good players. Now, let me give you all some information. This was a great trade for the Rangers. This is Chris Young's first move as Rangers GM. He's already off on a better note than John Daniels was in 2005. Because John Daniels' first move as GM, trading Alfonso Soriano, who went on to have a 40-40 season with the Nationals. That didn't turn out to be a good trade. But this had potential to be a great trade. Back at the deadline, Lance Lynn was in a lot of trade talks. And I was getting excited like many people are, like, oh, the Rangers might get a lot out of Lance Lynn. This is the highest his value is going to be. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't duped about him not being traded. We were in talks with Dodgers, Padres. I think the White Sox were in the mix too. Just a lot of teams interested in Lance Lynn at the trade deadline, and nothing happened. I mean, I was duped. I would have liked to see what we got back, but based on what John Daniels said, the Rangers just weren't offered a lot. And another thing I think is worth noting is that Lance Lynn was our most valuable pitcher at the deadline, I would argue, in Rangers history. Mark Teixeira was valuable, trade at the deadline. Who else? I can't really think because, it's like 2 in the morning, 1 or 2 in the morning where I am right now. But Lance Lynn was our most valuable pitcher at the deadline in Rangers history. And I bet it would be tough to be satisfied with what we would get from the trade deadline, especially since the Padres didn't trade a single player from their top 10 prospects list, or top 5, I think, actually. So, in retrospect, I'm glad nothing happened at the trade deadline. I would have loved for something to happen just for the excitement, but teams didn't want to pay up. That's what I was saying. Teams didn't want to pay up for Lance Lynn, and they didn't get him. I'm sure the Padres would have loved to have Lance Lynn because they struggled with starting pitching in the postseason. And I think the Dodgers would have had less struggles with their pitching in the postseason. Even though they won the World Series, they were struggling with starting pitching early in the postseason and somewhat in the World Series because Tony Gonsolin was he was a liability for the Dodgers in the postseason. And they would have really done that much better with Lance Lynn. But I just think that what we got back this time, y'all got to be glad about this. I mean, Dane Dunning, 25 years old, under team control until 2027. Avery Weems, who's on team control for much longer. Like, these two guys got potential. I looked at Dane Dunning's minor league stats. Every single season, except for one, I think, he's had a sub-3 ERA. And he racks up strikeouts. I think Draft Neck Mark said he walks a little bit, walks a little too many batters. Hopefully that improves. Now, one caveat. Rangers have historically been terrible at developing pitching. Think about all the pitchers that have developed in the Rangers system that turned out to be really good. You can't count many. Kevin Brown's the only person that comes to mind who ended up being a really good pitcher and who's a Hall of Fame snub, by the way. He didn't even spend his whole career with the Rangers. He only spent I think 5 or 6 years with the Rangers and then bounced to a few teams. Won a World Series with the Marlins, and became the first ever player to have $100 million contract, and very much an ace of the '90s. He developed in the Ranger system. That's one. Uh, I wouldn't even want to say Kenny Rogers because Kenny Rogers wasn't really that good. So I guess you could say Kenny Rogers if you want to be desperate. Um, can't really name you another one. So that's a problem because the Rangers have been trying to solve this problem a little bit, I guess. I mean, they're not making huge efforts uh, based on the results. Uh, One thing that the Rangers have started to do is after they draft a pitcher, they don't pitch him in the professional baseball for a year. That's what happened with Cole Winn, um, and he's still a top ranked prospect. He has potential, but Dane Dunning, he already made his MLB debut, so that's an advantage there. He did all right, sub 4 ERA. I mean, it was a short season. Give him 30 games, I think he'd do very well. So I don't think there's anything to be upset about in this trade. Both teams very much won this trade. But long term, 10 years from now, I think the Rangers may have won this trade. Because Lance Lynn's 33 years old. He's still an amazing pitcher. Like, he had a renaissance to his career with the Rangers. And the White Sox just bolstered their rotation that much more with Dallas Keuchel having a great year, Lucas Giolito throwing a no-hitter and finishing top 10 in Cy, or did he finish in Cy Young voting? I think he did, but I think Dallas Keuchel did also. So you got two solid starters. Um, Lance Lynn, Jose Quintana is on the White Sox, I believe. He was a good reliever with the Cubs. Gio Gonzalez, like, they have a good rotation, and they have a very young offense. They just need to fill that spot at DH. I think Kyle Schwarber would be a great option for the White Sox to have at DH. So, great trade for the White Sox, but also a great trade for the Rangers. Many people may think, oh, the Rangers fleeced the White Sox. I mean, it looks like we got a really good pitching prospect. We just have to see how he develops in Texas. Um, who knows? But I'm very happy about this trade. It was the last year of Lance Lynn's contract, and I would have hated for the Rangers to get nothing out of him. So I'm glad we got something out of him. It's like with Mike Minor. We already didn't trade him at the 2019 deadline, much for the same reasons why we didn't trade Lance Lynn at the deadline. The Rangers were expecting too much. And also, the Rangers were kind of on that postseason contender Kool-Aid based on how well they did in the first half of the season. But we did get something out of Mike Minor. Two young prospects from the A's. Marcus Smith, and I think the second one's Damian Harris, if I'm not mistaken. They're both very young. They have a lot of potential. More potential than Mike Minor, I can tell you that. But Mike Minor, he's not on the A's anymore. He's on the Royals. So as of now, the Rangers won that trade. But yeah, great thing that we got something out of Lance Lynn. I would have hate for him to stay in Texas and us to lose him in free agency. So very fortunate for the Rangers. Great move, Chris Young. And the owners, I mean, owners are obviously going to like this because they're freeing up $8 to $10 million off their payroll. So I'm not going to really credit ownership because they're rebuilding. They're trying to lose the least amount of money as possible. So, I mean, on Chris Young's part, he got a good amount. He got a good return on this trade. So I'm happy about this trade. Don't be let down, Rangers fans. Trust the process.